All right, you guys, I'm so excited to read this part to you. So, do you remember what happened? They left the beaver's house because they said, we really have to hurry. We've got a quarter of an hour before the White Witch shows up. 15 minutes. Mrs. Beaver was trying to pack all the food. She was so cute. And she even wanted handkerchiefs and pillows, but they didn't get the pillows. They made it. They were walking and walking and walking. And finally, they found a little secret cave that was just for the beavers. And so all of them got inside and they were all squished up in a snug little pile. But then they heard something and they thought it was a sledge, right? A sleigh. And they thought, uh-oh, it's the White Witch. So Mr. Beaver, being so very brave, went up to see what it was. And he said, come on out. He came back to the cave and said, come on out. It's not her. And I love this very last line we read yesterday. It said, come out and see. Mr. Beaver was so happy he was almost dancing with delight. Come and see. This is a nasty knock for the witch. It looks as if her power is already crumbling. What do you mean, Mr. Beaver? Panted Peter, as they all scrambled up the steep bank of the valley together. Didn't I tell you, answered Mr. Beaver, that she'd made it always winter and never Christmas? Didn't I tell you? Well, just come and see. And then they were all on top and did see. It was a sledge, and it was reindeer with bells on their harness. But they were far bigger than the witch's reindeer, and they were not all white, but brown. And on the sledge sat a person whom everyone knew the moment they set their eyes on him. He was a huge man in a bright red robe, bright as holly berries, with a hood that had fur inside it, and a great white beard that fell like a foaming waterfall to his chest. Wow, that's a cool beard, right? Everyone knew him because though you people on this sort only in Narnia, you see people on this sort only in Narnia, you see pictures of them and you see and you hear about him talked about all over the world. Who could this be? Someone in a red suit with reindeer that people talk about him all over the world? But when you really see them in Narnia, it is rather different. Some of the pictures of Father Christmas in our world make him look only funny and jolly. But now that the children actually stood looking at him, they didn't find it quite like that. He was so big and so glad and so real that they all became quite still. They felt very glad, but also solemn. I've come at last, said he. She has kept me out for a long time, but I've got in at last. Aslan is on the move. The White Witch's magic is weakening. So finally, Aslan started coming in, and the things that she had put on, the only winter and no Christmas, started dwindling away. And Lucy felt running through her heart the deep shiver of gladness which you only get if you're being solemn and still. And now, said Father Christmas, for your presents. There is a new and better sewing machine for you, Mrs. Beaver. I will drop it in your house as I pass. Isn't that awesome? She was worried about her sewing machine, and Father Christmas gave her a new one. If you please, sir, said Mrs. Beaver, making a curtsy, it's locked up. Locks and bolts make no difference to me, said Father Christmas. And as for you, Mr. Beaver, when you get home, you will find your dam finished and mended, and all the leaks stopped, and a new gate fitted just for your dam. Isn't that awesome? Mr. Beaver was so pleased that he opened his mouth very wide and then found he couldn't say anything at all. Have you ever done that where you're so excited? Peter, Adam's son, said Father Christmas. Here, sir, said Peter. These are your presents. And they are tools, not toys. The time to use them is perhaps near at hand. Bear them well. With these words, he handed Peter a shield and a sword. All right. He said they're not toys, they're tools. The shield was the color of silver, and across it there ramped a red lion as bright and as ripe as a ripe strawberry, at the moment when you pick it. So not just a ripe strawberry, a strawberry that's just in the time to be picked. So a bright red lion on the shield. The hilt of the sword was gold, and it had a sheath and a sword belt and everything that he needed. Complete package. And it was just the right size and weight for Peter to use. Peter was silent and solemn as he received these gifts, for he felt that they were a very serious kind of present. So it wasn't just a toy. It was something he was going to use, and it fit him perfectly. It was just for him. "Susan, Eve's daughter," said Father Christmas, "these are for you." And he handed her a bow and a quiver full of arrows and a little ivory horn. "You must use the bow only in great need," he said, "for I do not mean you to fight in the battle. It does not easily miss. And when you put this horn to your lips and blow it, then wherever you are, I think help of some kind will come to you." So a bow and arrow, and he said, don't just use it to shoot things, only use it when you need to use it. All right? And if you really need help, blow this horn and help will find you. Last of all, he said Lucy, Eve's daughter, and Lucy came forward. He gave her a little bottle of what looked like glass, but people said afterwards it was made of diamonds. Whoa. And a small dagger. "In this bottle," he said, "there is a cordial made of the juice of one of the fire flowers that grow in the mountains of the sun. If you or any of your friends is hurt, a few drops of this will restore them. And the dagger is to defend yourself at great need, for you also are not to be in the battle." "Why, sir," said Lucy, I don't know, but I think I could be brave enough." "That is not the point," he said, "but battles are ugly when women fight. And now," here he suddenly looked a little less grave, "here is something for the moment for you all." And he brought out, I suppose from a big bag in his pack, but nobody quite saw him do it. Maybe it was magic. A large tray containing 5 cups and saucers, a bowl of lump sugar, and a jug of cream, and a great big teapot, all sizzling and piping hot. Then he cried out, "Merry Christmas! Long live the true king!" And he cracked his whip, and he went with his reindeer and his sledge, and they were all out of sight before they realized they'd even started. Oh my goodness, so fast! Peter had just drawn his sword out of his sheath and was showing it to Mr. Beaver when Mrs. Beaver said, now then, don't stand there talking. There's still got tea to, you don't want our tea to get cold, just like men." Oh, Mrs. Beaver, she's so funny. She's like, "We don't want our tea to get cold. It's just like men to let your tea get cold looking at a sword and a shield, right? Come and help carry the tray down and we'll have breakfast. What a mercy I thought of bringing the bread and knife." So down the steep bank they went, back to the cave, and Mr. Beaver cut the bread and the ham into sandwiches, and Mrs. Beaver poured out the tea, and everyone enjoyed themselves. But long before they'd finished enjoying themselves, Mr. Beaver said, "Time to be moving on." And it's time for us to move on. All right, you guys. I'm so excited that they got to finally meet Father Christmas, right? And how did that happen? Because it was always winter, never Christmas. So that meant when Aslan came into Narnia, things started changing. Things started changing and Christmas had come. And they all were given beautiful, beautiful gifts. And we're going to see how Father Christmas and Aslan intends for them to use these gifts in the next few chapters. All right, I'll see you guys soon.